ever been told, don't hit others? Have you ever been told that you should probably keep your hands to yourself? Have you ever been morally responsible? Now, there's a reason why you have a conscience. This is an actual natural thing. It's not just environmental, even though environmental can change your conscience. And your conscience can be altered by many different means, right? But what does it mean to be moral? I believe what moral is doing what's right in your heart, and that's your conscience. Doing right with what your conscience says is good or bad, and or rather good or evil, or whatever along those lines, right? And we have external factors that can alter this. This would be belief, perception, deception. Doesn't matter what it really is, but there's many environmental factors. Church can affect your moral standards. For example, if you went to church and they told you that being gay is bad and you're going to go to hell, well, that's a pretty shitty thing to say to somebody that isn't hurting you by any means. So what actually distinguishes what's moral or not? Is it by a book in the Bible? Is it a law? Is it what's legal, not legal? No, that has nothing to do with what is moral. And because these specific things, let's say church and the state, are two things that go directly against the non-aggression principle. Let's dive into that. What is the non-aggression principle? Well, it's really self-explanatory. It's a principle in which you don't use aggression and you don't apply aggression in any type of means of conduct. This would be, let's say, you're having a moral argument, which is pretty simple, right? If you're having a moral argument, you got to understand that your argument has to be based on the non-aggression principle. It can't be based on any types of theft, any types of violence. And this non-aggression principle has been adapted and used by those who, well, are anarchists, libertarians, people that don't want any problems, people that respect property rights, people that are against shooting schools. Like, when your mother told you don't hit others, or whoever told you, right? At some point in your life you were told that that is wrong. And it's usually generally around the age of 6 or 7, where a child, again, generally 6 or 7, a child knows right from wrong. Now, I've told you guys in the past, I don't believe in right and wrong, so I said it wrong. But when I'm saying right or wrong, I'm really meaning good or evil. And if you want to add the religion principle, God or devil, just add an O to good, or you add a D to evil. It's the same concept, right? It's just a play on words. God and devil, good and evil. So, in the anarchist mindset, right? If the world was put down to the place of reducing governments, reducing wars, reducing the way that, or overall changing the way that we treat each other to a point of moral standards, we would all have to surrender to the non-aggression principle, which is literally the only rule when it comes to anarchy. It's the only principle, it's the only rule, it's the only philosophy when it comes to anarchy. What anarchy means is no rulers. There's no one ruling yourself or others or a country or group of people. There's no one ruling anybody in the philosophy of anarchy. It's actually very moral, it's responsible, because what you're doing is you're taking responsibility for yourself in a moral fashion, right? And it creates this idea of, instead of you surrendering to the state or to your God. You actually surrender to yourself and to your moral philosophy, your moral responsibility, right? And the non-aggression principle plays a very important role in this, because without the non-aggression principle, you would have what is known as chaos. Watch my video where I discuss the difference between anarchists and chaoticists. I don't know if I created that word chaoticists, but if I did, I'm patenting it. But that's what you're seeing when you hear the word anarchy. You think that buildings, destructions, I got to get a firearm to protect my stuff, and because someone's going to come and steal my stuff, and it's going to be complete anarchy, and it sounds scary. That's not what anarchy is. In fact, it's the exact opposite. It uses the non-aggression principle. If you are somebody that is scared if government's gone, well, what are you scared of? You're scared of being stolen from all the time. 40% of your income is taken from you. Then another 10% when you're buying things. So essentially 50 cents or percent. The fuck was I saying? 50% of everything you earn is stolen from you. So that goes in direct violation of the non-aggression principle. When you're violating this non-aggression principle, there should be means of dealing with this, right? So if anarchy was to happen, right, and someone was to go against the non-aggression principle, does that mean that there's not going to be judges? Does that mean that there's not going to be, judges of your own, your peers, your community, something like this? No, it has nothing to do with it. The only difference is you're not being stolen from in order to make police a thing, to make court systems a thing. See, in today's society, it goes directly against the non-aggression principle. Because what is happening is you're being stolen from in order to pay for things that you didn't necessarily want to pay for. So, I've talked about voluntarism. Voluntarism is a very important philosophy of anarchy. In fact, there's one of two important philosophies when it comes to anarchy. Voluntarism, which is directly in line with the non-aggression principle. That means everything that you do is voluntary. It doesn't hurt anybody. It's all voluntary. If it's a contract between two people, got to obey that contract because you both agreed to it, right? It's not like stealing from somebody, right? It's not like creating laws where you benefit but other people's, go to prison because of how they conduct business. It has nothing to do with that, which is a direct violation of the non-aggression principle. Voluntarism is, hey, it could be even as extreme as prostitution, right? So I'm a grown man. Let's say I like this female and she wants money. I want to have sex. She wants money. We both talk to each other. Hey, I'll give you $200. Let's fuck for an hour. She goes, hell yeah, let's do it. Well, that's not going up against that non-aggression principle. In fact, that is directly aligned with the non-aggression principle and voluntarism. So that type of business conduction is proper and is valid in the world of anarchy. In the world of, you're an adult, you make your responsible decision, right? You go with your morals, you both are okay with it, well, there's nothing wrong, right? Now it's another thing to rape or murder or do these things. This is chaoticists that do this, not anarchists. Anarchy is peace. I know that a lot of people are thinking, no, it can't be peace. It's like those motherfuckers that say Islam is the religion of peace. It's really not. No. The whole philosophy of anarchy is based on peace. And the reason why you're told that it isn't, and that you're shown in movies what anarchy would be like in chaotic fashion, is because the government doesn't want you believing that you can do better without them. Because they are a mafia. The government's a mafia that controls your money, controls how you act, your morals, tells you what's legal, not legal, throws you in a cage, can kill you, all at will. Why or how did this happen? Well, they have convinced you that you aren't able to take care of yourself or your family. That the government needs to step in and steal from you in order to make that happen, because you're just too dumb. You're too dumb. Straight up, you're too dumb to take care of yourself. Well, what's going to happen? It's like, let me drink this real quick. It's like if you were a child, and let's say you were slightly slower than the other kids. Well, what happens when they put you into a class where now you have an aide following you around, you have to take special classes in school where the slower kids go, and everyone's telling you and talking to you like you're like you're slow, right? Well, what's going to happen to you? You're going to actually believe it. You're going to believe that you're slow and need somebody to take care of you, right? That becomes who you are. You aren't slow naturally. This is kind of what is put on you. There's a cause and effect. This could be birth defects. This could be a lot of different aspects. But for the most part, if you're just a little slow, you can snap out of it. With a little bit of help, you can snap out of it. Now, it's like, I know a lot of people are going to get angry about that concept. But the same goes with anarchy, right? If you were able to take care of yourself and be responsible and be an adult and have all these obligations and responsibilities, what's going to happen to you? You're going to step up to the occasion and be able to take care of yourself, no problem, like we have for thousands and thousands of years, right? Now, have we gotten into tribal hierarchies? Sure, but this is not what we're talking about here. Because if you add things to a community level and everyone voluntarily says, hey, I like this person as chief, he's the wise man, and he knows a little bit more than me, so I'm going to ask him for advice. What should I do? Should I be the hunter today? Do we have enough food? Should we start planting berries? Whatever the fuck it is, right? In that idea, the tribe will voluntarily pick who should be in charge, who should be the one to go to ask for advice. Who should be a shaman or a healer, or who should do this or that and the third, right? And the wise man who's been able to, he might be older, might have understood how to survive a lot better than the others, he would step up naturally, and people will accept him for it, just to be able to step up. So, in anarchy, it's all voluntary, and it's all going against the non-aggression principle. Now, the government, right? This is involuntary. I didn't agree to this. I did not agree to this. I still do not agree to this today, right? I don't like being stolen from. I don't like being told how to run my life. I don't even like fucking e-logs, right? I don't even like fucking writing down my logs during trucking. I fucking hate it. I feel like a slave doing such because there's no reason for it, right? There's no reason for it. If I'm tired, I'll pull over and take a nap. It's that fucking simple. Straight up. And I do that because I find little loopholes in the system. So I can fucking sleep right now if I wanted to, even though I just woke up like an hour ago. But the point is, that's who I am. I want to go against what is legal and not legal and go more towards what's moral. You're not going to keep me from sleeping, fucking e-logs and your fucking 70-hour clock. Fuck you. Right? It goes against the non-aggression principle. You're forcing something on me that I don't agree to. Right? I don't agree to this, but you're forcing it on me. Right? Now, if we all just lived in the non-aggression principle, you would not have this almighty dictator type society or socialism or things of that nature, because you're told what to do. Oh man, I love coffee. I didn't agree to property taxes. I didn't agree to tax in general. I didn't agree to, if I didn't pay this property tax, that I'd be put into a box. And if I didn't want to be put into a box, they would beat me up until I did. And if I wanted to defend myself against this tyranny, they would throw me, or they would kill me. one way or another, they're going to get you inside a box. Whether that's... Oh. There's a policeman. Hopefully I wasn't speeding too much. That's another thing. If I'm speeding, what's happening? What's happening here? It's not even a crime. So who gives them the right to steal my money? This thug that goes around stealing people's money. Who gives that motherfucker the right? Well, it's the mafia. Government. Government is the most extreme type of mafia. Because not only can you not build a mafia of your own and stop them, they have control over what you can do, your family can do, everything. And if you go against that in any means necessary, you're being put into a box one way or another. This would be, again, prison or a fucking casket. And for what? Because I didn't want to be stolen from by a thug with a firearm who pulled me over. Total non-aggression principle violated. I didn't volunteer for this, right? I didn't do any crime. And believe it or not, if you know the laws as it is now, you don't have to follow what they say. If you know the laws, you don't have to do what they say, because they are not above the law. They are not above you as today's standards and today's laws. Today's laws, if there's no victim, there's no crime. So get the fuck away from me. Right? No victim, no crime. Straight up, that's what the law is based on. There's no such thing as a victimless crime. There's no such thing. And if I'm speeding, let's say it's 60 right now and I was going 67 when that cop showed up, I don't give a fuck. You know why? Because it's not... well, I do give a fuck because it's wrong to stop me and steal my money. Be a thug. That's what thugs do. That's your chaoticists. That's your aggression. Going out on people that, you know, what did I fucking do? You saw a number on a scouter, on a radar detector. And that number meant money to you. That meant, let's be violent and escalate as violence progresses if you try to defend yourself. That's their job. And that's wrong. And if you wanted this in your community, well, you will voluntarily pay for this. Not be forced and sucked dry out of you in order to pay for something that you wouldn't want, right? They wouldn't force you to pay for something. They would never force you to pay for something unless you didn't want it. Because if you wanted it, they wouldn't have to force you to pay for it. Straight up. Same thing goes with car insurance. Goes with any types of insurance, right? If you don't want insurance, you shouldn't have to pay for it. That is a law based on making others rich. That's all it is. It's not to keep anyone safe. It's to make sure that the insurance company can raise their prices because they know everyone has to get car insurance or health insurance. So they can set the bar at whatever they want. And there isn't a free market if everyone has to pay for it. Right? So if there was a law saying everyone must own a house, and you don't want to own a house, you want to pay rent because it's cheaper for you in the here and now because you're living paycheck to paycheck, you can't afford a house, well, that would be wrong, right? Now that's a very simple idea. It'd be wrong to force people to buy a house because they would have to pay more taxes. That would be wrong, right? Well, look at what's going on nowadays. Everything's wrong. 1776 tax on tea. From the Brits to the US. Tax on tea. 1% on one item. So if tea was $1, you know, for a huge quantity of it at the time, right? They would pay $1.01. Now, essentially, a lot of people think that's a major reason why there was a war. Because they didn't want to be taxed. There was a reason why people left. They knew if they took an inch, they would take a mile. It's well more than a mile now. It's well more than a mile now. Because look, the Brits won anyways. Straight up. They won anyways. Government's out of control. It's not small government. They won anyways. They run the shit. We might think that we do, but we don't. Now, because there's a state government, a federal government, hate when people go slow. State government, a federal government, there's all different types of court systems. Let's say the city courts, the federal courts, the family courts. I mean, there's what, 20 different types of courts? Something like that. There's like 20. You know, city courts, the state courts, the federal courts, the family courts. I can go on and on and on. There's different types of courts. And the law is so complex that you can basically figure out that, hey, you can either get away with murder or you're going to be charged with murder if you didn't do it. Right? You can be charged with murder whether you did or did not do it. And you can be, I mean, basically, how the law is written seems straightforward until you look deeper. And when you look deeper, you realize, hey, it's fucking complex. It can go one way or the other. So if you're going to keep what's moral on the lines of what's illegal or legal, you'd be doing yourself a disservice. Because the truth is, give me a second, I'm probably going to have to pay a toll. The truth is, what the fuck was I talking about? Oh, great. I hate when that happens. Oh, the truth is that you don't have to do a crime in order to pay the time. What's legal or not legal is based on what the government, aka the mafia, wants to control you. That's what it's based on. It's not based on what's moral or not. Now, government itself is a direct violation of the non-aggression principle, a direct violation of voluntarism, and it's just overall immoral for government to exist. It's immoral. It's not right. It's totally evil in its structure, how it's based. It's illegal. I mean, it's immoral. Don't get that mixed up with illegal. I'm talking weird now because I'm in traffic, and I usually don't make videos when I'm in traffic. But it should be gone here in a second now that we're getting out of the city. So, understand that government is immoral in its nature. Government forces you to do things that you don't want to do. In the structure of voluntarism, you control things. In the structure of the non-aggression principle, you make moral decisions. So if you're controlling moral decisions and having more responsibility, you can do more with your life. You can provide more. You can be more prosperous in your life. But when the government's coming in and saying, whoa, hey, Mr. Prosperous, give me half your income, how are you going to be prosperous? How are you going to pay employees? How are you going to be an employee? Because you're going to have to give up 50% of your income, right? Now, anarchy has this idea that taxation is theft. Taxation is extortion, which it is. It's literally extortion. If you truly think that 100% of the money that you give to the mafia is going to your benefit or to the benefit of others, well, it's clearly going to the benefit of the mafia. But others, as in the ones who pay for it, you'd be wrong, because it doesn't. I'm going to give you an idea, which I haven't said since my taxation is theft video, which is one of my favorite topics of all time. I need to get a shirt that says taxation is theft, because that's how fucking awesome, or how much I'm into taxation is theft. You should probably know by my videos by now that that's one of my big topics, is taxation is fucking theft. Now, I'm just going to put this into retrospect, or perspective for you. If the government is taking 50% of my income, well, let's say 40% of my income, and then about 10% is taxed, right? And everything you purchase. And then they're also adding fees and permit prices, and things cost money. Everything costs money to do anything that was free 100 years ago. There's a problem with this. Right? Everything costs money, so you give it up. To go fishing, you got to pay, like I live in New York State, it's $35 a year. It's stupid. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't protect fish. It doesn't protect anything. It doesn't do anything. And I spend money on it. It doesn't make really much sense. And if the philosophy or the understanding behind it is, well, that $35 goes to fish hatcheries so they replenish the ponds and the lakes and the rivers, it's pretty much garbage. Because the truth is, if the fishing's bad, I'm going to go up to that fish hatchery and try to add money to it voluntarily. You don't have to steal it from me in order to do something natural like fishing, which people have been doing for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years for free, without having to ask the government or the mafia or their god permission. Now, there's an idea out there called unschooling. Now, I'm sure you've heard of public school. I'm sure you've heard of private school. I'm sure you've heard of homeschooling. This is the most similar to homeschooling, but it unschools what you're taught. Now, if you're new to my channel, understand that history is basically a lie. Basically a fabrication of what your rulers want to instill into your psyche, into your brain, into your understanding of how the Matrix was articulated, and to create slaves that are pretty stupid, dumb enough to not ask questions. What unschooling does is take out those principles, and in many states, unschooling is illegal. Doesn't mean it's moral. So homeschooling would be you teaching your kids based on the curriculum of your state and your government. So the state gives you all the curriculum, and you teach your kid, and your kid has to pass that curriculum. So what you're essentially doing is taking your kid out of public schooling and doing the exact same thing at home, just without children and transportation to the school and stuff like that, right? You can do homeschooling online, you can do it from the mother to the child or whatever, right? I know a lot of people that homeschool. It is pretty popular still, I'd say. But what is gaining traction is something called unschooling. So you're not adding the curriculum of the state. In fact, what you're doing is, at a very young age, having the kid learn what he wants to learn with the addition of the parent, or it doesn't have to be a parent, it could be a friend of the parent, it could be a neighbor, it could be whoever, right? That is very intellectually wise. So this goes back to the tribal scenario. When you voluntarily say that this is the wise man, we should go to and seek him for advice. That's what we've done for thousands of years. Voluntarily doing something. Not being forced to be indoctrinated with a curriculum that is generally a lie. The majority of it is fabricated lies based on the agenda of the state, which does more harm than good. So in a voluntary society that does not induce an aggression or a violent coercion or anything like that, you can choose how your kids get educated. And if your kids want to learn the things that they want to learn, let's say 5 years old, the wise man is teaching, or mother, or whoever's teaching the child, or group of children for that matter, how to garden at 5 years old. Kid knows how to grow tomatoes, how to properly grow tomatoes, how to avoid flooding, etc. Putting it on a stick so it doesn't hobble over when it starts budding and the fruit starts getting big. When you're taught that at 5 years old, you're learning things that have something to do with reality, instead of being indoctrinated with fucking dates and numbers, which, welcome to the real world and the real matrix, rather. Numbers are meant to numb your mind. It's not meant to make you more intelligent. It's meant to numb your mind. It's numbers. Look at the root of numb. Now, you can teach your kid whatever you want. You can add the curriculum of the state if you want. That's called homeschooling. Now, unschooling is something that's proper, something that helps your kid do the things that he or she wants to do. Get more intelligent on certain topics, right? You can still add Google to the equation. You can still add some things that are relevant in the history or sciences, obviously. But instead of saying that reading, writing, arithmetic is what you're learning, you can add that, sure, but you don't have to add anything from the curriculum. So you can add things like gardening, which is very proper. You can add things like teaching your kid how to extract rainwater and make it drinkable, using charcoal filters, or even adding a well and adding some types of filters and teaching your kid how to filter out water so it's healthy. You can teach your kid, the things from the Boy Scouts, right? You can teach your kid from a multitude of areas that can help your child. You can add brain teasers. You can add anything, right? Like, how do you be successful in this matrix, which they don't teach you in school? How to run a business, how to do these things, right? Teach your kids valuable lessons. Okay, today we're going to create a lemonade stand on our property, and we're going to teach you the fundamentals of a business. When people drive by and they see lemonade 50 cents, well, they're going to be like, whoa, 50 cents, that's cheap. If I went to the store, it'd be $1.50 if I went to the gas station or something, right? So they're going to be more apt to go to you because it's probably more organic and it's not been sitting on the shelf for weeks. So they're probably going to go to you. And then you can probably raise your prices and you can understand business at a very young age, right? And then you can teach your children, okay, well, you just made $10 today, right? 20 cups of lemonade you sold. You earned $20. So what you would do with this $20 is you would create more lemonade. So we would buy more lemons or more sugar powder or whatever it is. And we would start again, right? So you made $20. Put $5 back in the business. Now you made another $20 the next day. Now your business is getting traction. And you can teach your kid this. Now you can do it with public schooling and add this to the side, things of this nature, which is not entirely aligned with unschooling. Well, unschooling would be voluntary. So it'd be everything's voluntary. Hey kid, what do you want to do in life? Because as an adult, we look back generally and say, public schooling is necessary, or repeat the same things that your school, state, your church, pastor, or your parents have done to you, and you repeat that because you're like, hey, I grew up fine. But did you? What you want for your kids is the utmost best results in morality, especially. Something that they're motivated in. Well, you taught your kid at a young age, that kid likes money. That kid likes to have that money and go spend money on things. In my understanding, and I don't want unschooling to be a big topic today, in my understanding with unschooling is that a lot of people that unschool their kids tend to be higher IQ. I think that there's something about the developmental stages at a very young age that if you have them being responsible and voluntary for their actions, they are more apt to do the right thing instead of repeatedly repeat and regurgitate information on command in which they don't even find interesting nor relevant in their life. Right? Repeating dates that you're seeing even in homeschooling. You're repeating dates. And you're repeating things that have no relevance in your life. Now, what they say is history is bound to repeat itself, all this bullshit. It's just things that people say. It's just fucking air in the wind when you say that to me. It's like, you don't know history enough then. Because if you're just repeating and regurgitating information on command, you actually don't know history. You just memorized a bunch of things, a bunch of information. That's all you did. You don't know this information, because if you knew it, you'd know it'd be a fucking lie. It'd be a straight up lie that goes against logic. Now, I'm probably going to have to edit this video together because it's so long. Because I didn't expect to get into unschooling and shit. I had no idea. When I make a video, I have no idea what kind of route I'm going to take. But I will say this. The non-aggression principle is literally all good and no bad. I can't think of anything that's bad that comes from the non-aggression principle. Now, the only time that you should ever use aggression is to defend yourself. That is it. Because if somebody's threatening you, if somebody shows up on your property with a firearm, if somebody's going to rape you, if somebody's going to murder you or steal from you or any of these things, you have an obligation to defend yourself. An obligation, a responsibility to take care of you and your loved ones. Responsibility. Now, the non-aggression principle isn't anti-firearm, right? You're totally able to defend yourself. In fact, that would be morally consistent, right? Now, I've made the argument for guns a few times on my channel. I haven't dove too deep into it, but of course I made the arguments on guns and the responsibility behind it. I'm 100% for everyone being able to own a firearm. Everybody. Yes, the one who even committed a crime. That person has a need or means to protect themselves. All right? You can't just have some people sitting duck because they made a mistake in the past. Even if that mistake is horrible. No one has that right to be able to steal their way to defend themselves. No one. Are there evil people in this world? Absolutely. But when you're adding the state and a whole society based on violence and theft, that's what the society is based on. Violence and theft. When you have that, you're going to breed people to also agree with that. Now, let's dive into, because I wanted this to be farther along in the video. I didn't expect it to go this long. Let's talk about peaceful parenting. Now, thanks to Stefan Molyneux, which a lot of people think that that's where I get all my information from. No, I haven't heard that, but I have heard people say, hey, you must like Stefan Molyneux. I do like Stefan Molyneux before he was a statist. I'm actually listening to his YouTube channel again, which is weird, but I like it now again because he's not talking about Trump finally. But anyways, thanks to Stefan Molyneux, I've understood the statistics, the facts, the reason, the evidence on peaceful parenting, right? If you're gonna hit your child's gonna hit somebody else, right? You don't teach somebody to not hit somebody by hitting somebody. Straight up. Use your logic. Come on. I'll give you a few more seconds. You can't teach somebody to not hit somebody by hitting somebody, right? It doesn't make sense. So, and I've talked about this many times on my channel, and of course this isn't just logic from Stefan Molyneux when I talk about peaceful parenting. This is my logic in my anecdotal understanding, in my experience. Which is, if you are going to hit your kid and spank your kid, you're traumatizing that kid. I have never seen an adult beating on a child where that child's not traumatized. Right? So, you might think that, hey, you and your kid are getting along and stuff after hitting your kid, which a lot of these Christian books teach parents to hit the kid, but also tell them why they hit the kid. Makes no sense to me. It's not logically or morally consistent. However, they teach the parents to hit the children. And because you were hit as a child, like me, I was hit as a child, belt, bare hand, the whole nine, right? And, well, what happened when I needed help? I ain't turning to my fucking parents. Other kids aren't either. Straight up. By using violence, you're creating chaos and trauma to a small child that is also not going to trust their parents. Why aren't they going to trust their parents? Because their parents are beating up on them. You're a bully at school. Are you going to be like, hey, I know you just beat me up yesterday, but I think you're real swell. And you know what? I'm going to tell you some secrets of where I keep my money in my locker, and here's my combination. I didn't know what to say in that one. But I also was bullied as a kid, but that's a thing for another time. So, and I actually have video on bullying, which I watched that video. I'm not diving into it 45 minutes into this one. So, when you're hitting a child, what is actually the outcome? You're making your kid traumatized. If your kid is being bullied at school or whatever, that kid's not going to tell the parent because there's a disconnect there, right? No matter what you think as a parent, when you're like, well, my kid still eats at the dinner table, everything's still fine. No, you're being delusional. When that kid's getting bullied from school and comes home and you don't ask what's wrong or anything like that, even if you do, the kid's not going to tell you because they don't really trust you as the major source of need for trust, the parent. They don't trust you anymore. And when does the beatings end? And I know parents hate hearing that. Beatings? I didn't beat my kid. I just gave him a nice quick slap on the ass, or 10 slaps, or 100 slaps, or using the belt. But it's needed because my kid's bad. Not all kids are good. Some of them need it. Yeah? Sounds like someone's a terrible parent. That's why I have so many videos on parenting. So, I don't want this to be totally a parenting issue, but we are adults here, and we got to understand that most adults have children around and need to apply the non-aggression principle. So I gotta ask you, do you go around beating up everyone else's children, or just your own? Oh, you have the right to beat your children, not other children? And again, parents hate hearing the words beating, but that's what you're doing. It's a bigger person beating up on a little person because the bigger person didn't like what the little person did. Right? That's all it is. Now, if the roles were flip-flopped and you were tinier than your kid, how is that going to work? Well, it isn't. I say this to everybody who beats their kids. So at what point do you not hit your kid anymore? When they are bigger than you? When they're big enough to defend themselves? Is that the point? Because that's generally the point, right? That's the point where you're like, ooh, my kid's 130 pounds and I'm a mom that's 110 pounds. Kid's gonna be able to defend himself even when the kid's fucking 130 pounds and you're, 160 pounds. The kid's gonna be able to defend themselves. It's gonna be a much more even playing field. So when's the time to stop hitting your kids? Well, from what I hear from people, it's around that time. But it's not because my kid's not going to fight back on me. Really? I've never seen a 13-year-old get spanked and let you do it. Never seen it. Unless the father's doing it and he's a lot bigger. I don't see a mother hitting a son, let's say, that's 13. I don't see it. Because it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. The kid's going to be like, this person's beating me up. I need to defend myself. Right? Because naturally, in tribal situations, right, like in the past, there was no such thing as this attack our loved ones. Like, this never existed. Right? And the reason that we progressed to the consciousness and the state of IQ that we are in today, or at least a progression of it in evolution, was a lot based on the non-aggression principle. Now, if you're going to be tyrannical, if you're going to be aggressive, you're going to be a warlike culture, you're actually not progressing. You're actually staying the same or getting worse through time. Because what aggression is based on low IQ. For example, if you can't reason with your child and you have to beat your child, it's due to you not being smart enough to be able to argue with an 8-year-old, to instill why you are right. And if you can't argue with an 8-year-old, you're probably wrong, right? Whatever you're trying to instill in your kid, you're probably wrong, or you just don't even know it enough. It's a direct result. The reason why you beat your kid, or the reason why you beat others, is from a direct result from you not being intelligent enough. Right? Even the bully at school. If the bully can be like, hey, I like your toy, right? You got a toy there, or whatever you got. Nowadays, it'd probably be a smartphone or a Game Boy or something, but, I like your Game Boy. Can I just play for it for a second? And the kid goes, yeah, here you go. I'm making a friend. And the kid goes, thank you. See you. Well, what's going to happen? The kid's going to be like, well, I don't want to be fucking with this kid. This kid just stole my shit. So if the bully was smart enough to do it once and then he goes up and tries to do it again, then you're like, no, I'm not giving you my toy now. I'm not giving you my lunch money. Well, that comes to the point of, wait, I can't trick the kid anymore. If I can't trick the kid, I'm going to have to beat the kid. And if the kid is big enough where it's going to be a tough fight, well, I'm going to avoid that scenario. Or if I can mental the kid, or something like that, then I'm going to try it. I'm going to try to outsmart or outwit this kid. And if I can't, then I'm going to have to use aggression. So aggression is only necessary from those who want to do you wrong. Aggression is not necessary if you're trying to do right. Right? Going back to that philosophy of if you want to make something right, like a contract, and you have a contract between your insurance company and you, right? That's right, because you wanted that insurance, because that insurance, the idea of the insurance, the safety of the insurance, that understanding that, hey, I'm going to put my money into something for that just in case scenario, that's on you. You voluntarily applied for this insurance, right? But if you didn't want insurance and the government said, hey, you have to buy insurance for your health. Well, and you're like, hey, I'm 18 years old, let's say. I'm 18 years old. I'm healthy. I'm very fit. I just graduated high school. I've been in, sports my whole life. I'm very healthy. I don't plan on getting into drugs or anything. I plan on being healthy for a long time and going to the gym. I eat well, whatever, right? And you're like, hey, I'm young. I feel good. Why are they stealing my money again? Right? So that is wrong to steal from somebody who doesn't want something, right? I don't want your insurance. Too bad. I'm going to put you in a box if you don't pay for this insurance. No, first, I'm going to steal your money, right? So, like, if you don't get health insurance today, on your taxes, you have to pay that insurance as a type of tax or fine or fee or whatever, right? Whatever baby food they want to say, fee or fine. Those two words mean tax. That's what it is. It's just a polite way of saying taxation. And if you don't pay it, we're going to throw you in a box. Right? One way or the other. Oh, you don't want to go to prison and you want to defend yourself against the aggressor, against the person who's violating you and aggressing you for something that you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't commit a crime. There's no victim in this crime. The only victim is you from the aggressors, because the mafia brought their thugs to your door to bring you to jail. And if you don't cooperate, as they like to call it, cooperate, which is a polite way of saying understand, which is another polite legalese word meaning stand under. That means whatever I fucking say, you gotta comply. Doesn't matter if it's legal, illegal, moral, immoral, doesn't fucking matter. Right? So, the problem here is that one way or another, they want you to comply and use violence. So, society is structured on theft and violence. They want this in the home. They want the father out of the equation. And they want to replace the father with the state. Watch my video on devaluing men. All these fucking MGTOWs hating my channel now. I have these MGTOWs thumbing down all my videos now. They just go through all my videos and thumb them all down. It's fucking pretty pathetic, but they gotta understand that, a lot of the stuff that they're doing, the MGTOWs, is kind of along the lines of what I talk about. So we're kind of we're supposed to be on the same page. I just sent my message to men and they had a conniption. Alright, so before this gets to an hour long, I probably don't want to make it this long. I made a video yesterday that was 2 hours long, and I'm not going to put that up on YouTube anytime soon because, well, I'm going to have to go home and edit it on my computer. But I want to leave you with this. Non-aggression is a progress for society. It's been our evolutionary backbone, which has produced more good than bad. When a society comes together in the same means of bettering each other, they don't use aggression on each other. You don't make progress through aggression. Now, if you want to go back to the ancient stories and myths, as I call them, which is what you're taught as fact, I call them the ancient myths, where, oh, you want progress? Like they created pyramids using slaves in a rope and pulley system, and and they're able to carve out these things using slaves. Yeah, but who did that benefit? Did not benefit the slaves, did it? Come on, think about it. Didn't benefit the slaves. Who did it benefit? It benefited the elite, the pharaohs, the top of the line elites. That's who slaves benefit. Slaves do not benefit slaves. Wake up. So, in today's society, which, watch my video on modern slavery. I think I have a video called Modern Slavery and Your Straw Man? Something like that. That rang a bell, so I said it. But modern slavery is the system that we're in with this matrix. That is the modern slavery. Right now. You are a slave. I know I keep throwing that out there, but I'm showing all this evidence of you being a slave. And I'm using the reasoning to put you to the point of saying, whoa, actually, that makes sense. And I don't have an argument to debunk that. You are a fucking slave to the elites right now. There is no fucking argument against it. Haven't heard one valid argument. And I'm a very logical, reasonable person. So, that says a lot. I'm definitely willing to hear your discussion if you want to go on Skype and tell me that we're not modern slaves. Anyways, I digress. Society moves forward from non-aggression. The only thing that we are doing today is benefiting not us. We are benefiting them, the elites, that sit home and do nothing. Well, they can do whatever the fuck they want, rather. They're not doing nothing. So, what we're doing is spinning the hamster wheel for them. And they are a mafia. And it's pretty sad that a lot of people don't even recognize this. People blindly accept this. When just in 1776, I'm not saying the whole reason, but a huge chunk of the reason why there was a fucking war in 1776 was because of a direct violation of the non-aggression principle. Direct violation. It might be minuscule, but if you're enabling a violent theft organization called government, if you're enabling them to do you wrong, do you think they're just going to stop there? Think of it like this. If you have a wife that just uses manipulation on you, uses your heart and manipulates your heart to steal your money. Like I heard this thing on Stefan Molyneux because I just got back into him literally yesterday. And I was hearing this conversation. The video is called something along the lines of the most shocking conversation of all time or something. And he's talking to this guy, and it's like a 2.5, 3 hour video or something. And the guy goes saying all the shit that this white dude married a black woman from the Caribbean, and that woman's family all calls him racist, and the guy didn't do anything racist. She beat on him, said that she wanted him to die, and this is all within like a year of their relationship or a year and a half of their relationship. And it just problem after problem after problem, and Stefan Molyneux is just saying, hey, look at all this shit. This isn't healthy. Look at this shit. Can't believe you're putting up with this shit. So think of a woman that's manipulating you, and then she's $70,000 in debt to a university and wants to go in and have more debt. And you just married her. She didn't tell you about this debt until you got married. So, imagine a woman that's doing that to you, right? Well, think of, where was I going with this? I was going somewhere nice, but now I realize I gotta pay a toll. Jeez, it's an hour long. I can talk. I get bored out on the road probably. I think that's it. No, I'm really legitimately trying to help you guys. Using what I know to be able to help you. But imagine a woman that's treating you that bad, right? and manipulating you. They're doing it for some gain. They're getting some gain out of you. Now, if you are enabling one thing, she's just going to go to the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. It's never going to stop if you enable it. Now, if she goes, oh, I'm sorry for yelling at you, and says, hey, it won't happen again, I'm so sorry, that wasn't like me, I was just having a bad day or something, and say, I'm so sorry, and then it never happens again, so be it. You let her know, hey, I don't want that shit to ever happen again. You don't fucking do that to me, right? We're supposed to love each other, blah, 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 right? You don't treat me like shit. And if you put your foot down right there and don't enable it, it's not going to happen again. Because, hey, you stopped it. Same thing with 1776. You stopped it. So you stopped it for a while until a few generations later, the British won. But that was under the radar. And, you know, they're like, oh, just a 1% tax on tea. And then it ended up being what it is today. Half your income. Half your income. Government is stronger than ever. Can do anything to you. You're their little bitch. So, realize that. If you're enabling the government to do these things, they're going to take a mile. Give them an inch, they'll take a mile. As long as you're enabling it. It's pretty sad. So, if you follow the non-aggression principle, everyone's life is going to be easier because you're going to be benefiting everybody in voluntary fashion. If I want something and you want something and both of us come together, if I have oranges and you have apples, and I have so many oranges and you have so many apples, it's going to be more than enough for what you want or what you can sell straight up. And you're like, well, I can get it cheaper if I go to the grocery store, let's say, and I wanted apples. I have oranges. I wanted apples, and they're charging $1 per apple. And I know this guy with apples, and I'm basically growing oranges for free. And I say, hey, I'll give you 100 oranges for 100 apples. The apple guy's like, you know what? Go into the grocery store. It's $1 an orange. And I have this surplus of apples that I don't need. Well, we come together, we trade. Why the fuck does the government have to get involved and say, wait a minute, give me half of your income from this? It's fucking bullshit. Right? You don't need a mafia involved in your transactions. As long as both of you are okay with it, that's all you need. That's enough for this video. I finally made it up to the toll booth. Stay tuned for more content. Plenty more coming. See you guys.